into the Hall of Fame in 2018 under this present Hubert Minnis administration. The great residents of Central Grand Bahama, who I so proudly represent, are hardworking, industrious, intelligent, talented, progressive, forward-thinking, and like-minded men, women, and children who collectively seek a flourishing economy, financial increase, political stability, and an open, free, and independent place for our children and grandchildren to grow, develop, prosper, and advance in whatever positive endeavor they so choose. Yes. It is with pleasure that I turn my attention to my basic reason for being here, the great constituency of Central Grand Bahama. Of course not. Thank you, BVL. Since being elected in May 2017, I'll touch on some of the projects that we did. We collectively have forged ahead with developing certain areas in Central Grand Bahama. One thing I've always believed in is the ability to feed oneself in a healthy and wholesome manner. As such, we began promoting backyard farming prior to Hurricane Dorian at the home of one Anthony Gerald Hudson. Today, we have developed over 3 acres of land on the Mall Drive where an assortment of vegetables being grown, and I thank the member for North Abaco for visiting with me during his last trip to Grand Bahama.
Wonderful experience. Just North Abaco.
I was my best to assist. Long hours have gone into cultivating this property, so much so that volunteers can be found there any given Saturday morning. And I'm proud to say this, particularly those students in need of the countless community service hours. Since last summer, and this is not a proud moment, we have distributed over 250 backyard farming kits to residents. And according to my teleprompter, samples of those kits should be on the TV screen. Our efforts have not been in vain. As you can see, we are well on our way to producing top quality and when fully grown, we have happily donated. I'm saying this is part of our legacy already. We've donated to Home Away from Home, one of our senior citizen homes in the constituency, as well as the Grand Bahama Children's Home, and yes, of course, the Rand Memorial Hospital.
You're very thoughtful.
Thank you. So you see, we are not only catering to residents in Central, but residents from all over the island of Grand Bahama. We hope that sometime soon, the site at the mall will become the venue for regular farmers market events, completed with a pavilion for vendors to sell their produce, patrons to pick up what they like and have their smoothies and green salads made right in front of them. There will also be the opportunity to sell crafts and other items. Until then, happy to announce this, we'll host our farmers market at another location developed by us in Central Grand Bahama, the Grand Bahama Community Park, located on the Princess property, formerly the Royal Oasis. And this Saturday, beginning 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we'll be having our first Central Grand Bahama Farmers Market. Thanks to my wonderful committee members, and of course, pictures of that should be also on the screen. Yes. Today, to this day, our park has become something that people are enjoying, adding some dimension and creative work to this natural environment. A local artist, Brian Maycock, has used wood and stone and carved words and trees into the trees, and you have signs saying family, trust, honest, welcome, hope, promise, empowerment, empowering words, positive word. Once again, the member from North Abaco, as well as the Deputy Prime Minister, visited that park with me. With the renovation of the pond, which currently houses a variety of fish and turtles, with walking trails and bird watchman areas that are also areas where private parties have taken advantage of the beauty to capture their wedding photos. Musicians are now doing music videos there, and they are having other photo shoots. This is an area I am proud to say is being enjoyed by not only the residents of Central Grand Bahama, but those from east to west and visitors alike. Other projects we have undertaken in Central Grand Bahama includes the restoration of the YMCA and Hunters, now called the Wheatley Grant, one of the movers and shakers, founding members of that community center, along with the basketball court, named in honor of one Fletcher Lewis, who also played basketball with Peter Gilcott, one of our Olympic long jumper. Oh, he went to Stockton here. I said Barnabas. This particular area, and I always get in trouble for this one, but it's true. It's not a matter of bragging, it's a matter of fact. This was the first smart park, not only in Grand Bahama, but in the entire Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Yes, last summer, we had a major community cleanup effort to remove hurricane debris, and every polling division was included in this major project, which included government, Port Authority, and private subdivision. And again, we clean up from east to west. And I want to thank this government for providing the funds for us to do so. We also plan to install bathroom blocks and gazebos for Hannah Hill Basketball Court, Hebron Town at Lovers Beach, the basketball court, and Fitness Point, Lighthouse Point. Good things are happening in our country. I want you to hear this, Mr. Speaker. And in Grand Bahama, someone touching this last night, no matter what they say, we recently opened the Lighthouse Point at our Lucayo. The government really recently purchased the Grand Bahama International Airport. Now, I'm an architect, and I believe I'm qualified perhaps in here more than anyone, as a matter of fact, to speak to architecture and structures. I would say this. It was stated last night that the Bahamas government purchased pretty much a dilapidated building, a rundown building, and we paid some $1 million for it. But the point was missing. The main thing is that the Bahamas government purchased the major port of entry into Grand Bahama. No longer is the port of entry owned by foreigners. The people of Grand Bahama now own, and the Bahamas own the port of entry. And that's and the fact that we spent $1 million to cover salary for Bahamians, Grand Bahamians. Why would somebody complain about that? That is kudos. The Bahamas government spent the money to take care of Bahamians who had to buy food for their families, pay their light bill, pay their rent. So I believe we should be commended for that instead of being criticized. It was further talk, it was further stated in here that we are putting the Randall Memorial Hospital in the floodplain. And I was interrupted by Pirate earlier. I'm going to allow him to say what he has to say so I can have the floor. Mr. Speaker, I need you to protect me, Mr. Speaker.
You care about Grand
Mr. Speaker, I do care about Grand Bahamians. I do care. And I'm looking at the surface. I'm looking at the deep down effect that this is having on Grand Bahamians. We were told that the Randall Memorial Hospital is in the floodplain, but we didn't put it there. It was there for some 56, 57 years. We're building it back there. No, let me say this again. We're building it in the floodplain. But as far as I can remember, based on the topographical survey, the Randall Memorial is higher than most of the areas in downtown area. The Port Authority building is not going to move. That is at a lower elevation. And if we think about some of the largest cities around the world, New Orleans is below sea level. Georgetown, Guyana is below sea level. So what do we have to do? Adjust the architecture to suit. In fact, over 80% of the Bahamas landmass is within 5 feet of the mean sea level. So what do we have to do? Make an adjustment. Yes, Dorian exposed our weaknesses. We just now have to strengthen it. And let me say this. Mr. Speaker, permit me. Who's designing this hospital? Let me give a little overview. And my little brother, I hope he's watching from overseas. The Bear Group. Let me talk about the Bear Group. The Bear Group integrates architecture, construction, sustainability, and technology to transform how its clients design and build. This Central firm is the largest integrated design build firm with over 700 employees and 9 offices across the United States and Mexico, with over 60 years of experience in the healthcare, in the healthcare industry. Beck designs and builds innovative healthcare projects. It works with proven healthcare systems and academics, medical centers on cutting-edge healthcare and teaching facilities, as well as the athletic facilities at Duke University. Here in the Bahamas, let me get to the good part. As CEO and lead the team, the Beck Group, domestic and international design planning, real estate consulting, and construction businesses. Let me say this. This outstanding company was hired by the Minister Administration to build our healthcare facility in Grand Bahama. And here's the caveat. The Beck Group, this large firm, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable
please protect
member.
me. Mr. Speaker,
You cannot carry on
People
the
need to hear me.
conversation across
you don't want to hear the good news?
another member speaking.
Come on, Pirate, you want listen to the good news from Grand Bahama. This affects you too. The hospital is being designed by this phenomenal company, and the CEO of this company is a Bahamian. One Fred Paul, who I'm proud to say, and look, I can brag on myself now. I don't do that much. He's my student. He came up under me at a lecture, and thank you, Mr. Michael Lecture and Ken Lam and the whole team. Fred Paul came up under me. He went to St. John's, and every summer he would come, and he's a triple jumper on the B3As. Mr. Bonson knows him very well. Oh yes, and I hope Fred is watching right now. Fred is probably one of the most successful Bahamian. Absolutely, I call him little big brother. He's big and taller than I am. But that is the Random Memorial Hospital future is in his hand to plan and to do the project management for the construction. No worries. And I just want to say one last thing that was said last night. I want to reiterate this. On a more somber note, when it was stated that we buried persons in Abaco and on my grave, that bothered me. That's serious. Because I have cousins went missing in Abaco. And your family too. Went missing. We painstakingly separated much as we could. Took individual samples and marked those graves with DNA samples. And Minister of National Security Coroner's Office, they did a phenomenal job. Yeah, that one kind of bothered me last night. We did our best to ensure the graves are marked with DNA samples, so at the end of the day, they can be identified once, but they're tied, all tied. So they're not unmarked grave. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here on behalf of the good people of Central Grand Bahama again to lend support. Yes, to this proposed, absolutely, to this proposed annual budget for the 2020-22 fiscal period as tabled by the most honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert A. MP and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, my ministry covers several areas. As Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, all of our athletes cover our youth, athletes, artists, artisans. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that all areas have been impacted. Our youth group, bands, organizations, sports clubs, training efforts, tournaments and meets, and especially our cultural activities have all had to make serious adjustments and alterations, and in many cases, unfortunately, cancellation. Most notably, despite best efforts, my ministry's own national high school track and field championship, named in honor of Frank Pancharaman, and incidentally, he's also a Kappa, was canceled. Yeah, Panch is one of us. So too, we're all grifter games, track and field, and swimming. And now we wait with bated breath in hopes that the 2020, even though it's 2021, the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games will take place in a few weeks from now. Yes, Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has caused us all to change the way we operate, the way we plan, the way we execute, the way we dream, the way we move forward. And I must credit the staff and my ministry who have been able to accomplish so much with so little. Mr. Speaker, I wish to share some of exciting and important initiatives planned by the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture for this upcoming fiscal period. I want all the ministers to pay attention because it could affect your ministry one or your constituency one way or the other. Following my appointment as Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, first of all, I want to set the foundation. I want to start off on a good, strong foundation. I felt it important to meet the former ministers who held the same portfolio on both sides of the political divide. The meeting was an important one because we discussed sports program and development, youth initiatives, the orange economy, the cultural policy, and other matters related to my ministry. I must say that this meeting was extraordinarily successful. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, senior ministry staff traveled with me to Grand Bahama for the first time ever. And together with the Grand Bahama staff members, we toured the sporting facilities there. We didn't intend to tour other areas, however. Time was limited and further restricted due to the early departure of the outgoing flight. And again, pictures should be up showing that. Turning my attention to the Department of Youth, there are 7 initiatives we have either continued or started. Pay attention, ministers and MPs and senators. The Fresh Start program is a 16-week youth employment program that engages youth ages 18 to 25. This program provides both training and opportunities for those who may have been unsuccessful in securing employment since leaving high school, and for those who may be considered at risk and marginalized because of financial constraints, poor academic performances, or an incomplete secondary education. The Fresh Start program prepares its participants to prepare for employment, identify potential employment opportunities, improve personal qualities, qualification, and job search skills, and make sound professional and personal decisions while gaining momentum and confidence for their journey ahead. Components of the Fresh Start program include job readiness, personal development, skill set training, and internship. Skill set training includes mixology, at least a lot of us know what that is, butlering, come on, Deacon, culinary, baking, housekeeping, clerical work, beauty trades. Would you say, go again? Okay. Agricultural, farming, carpentry, and graphic design, all relevant. This program will resume in the spring of 2022. The Grand Bahama Fresh Start program will include offerings such as landscape maintenance, hair braiding, barbering, and pickling preserves, and is expected to begin in the fall of 2021, the same year. The High School Leavers Job Readiness Series was implemented to temporarily replace our Job Ready program in New Providence. The HSL program is designed to curb youth unemployment by equipping young people between the ages of 16 and 18 with soft skills and job readiness training that will make them better candidates for long-term employment. The pilot high school HSL commencement just a week ago on April 12, 2021, and is already garnering results of high school leavers. We have effectively completed one cohort and we'll be commencing the second cohort on June 21st, 2021. So a few weeks ago, from now, we'll be taking on another cohort. The important thing about this program is that because it is in a virtual format, this is also good, Bahamian youth on several family islands were able to be engaged. And yes, North Abaco, I saw participants from Grand Key in particular as a part of this program. Yes. They were exposed to soft and professional development skills, absolutely, with numerous young professionals from various career fields. Interested persons can register on our Facebook page through the Division of Youth or call our offices for further information. We intend to host another HSL program cycle this fall, 2021, and we also anticipate the resumption of the original in-person Job Ready program in the spring of 2022. At this point, Mr. Speaker, I must commend my staff in Grand Bahama who were able to successfully achieve this task while working from home. The office was unfortunately destroyed during Hurricane Dorian. And while we had a little space at C.A. Smith building, that space was reclaimed, and now we're now seeking another location, and we're being greatly assisted by the member from Garden Hills. The Be Inspired program is a government-funded, grant-based program designed to empower young Bahamian citizens between the ages of 18 and 30. I see Golden Gate's taking notes. Seeking to establish or expand their small businesses. While all our programs are important, this one is particular of significant importance. It is so important that this government will provide aspiring entrepreneurs who possesses viable small business ideas with the tools and other resources necessary to successfully launch and manage their small businesses. And for those who don't know, BAIC is there to help you with your business plan as part of their portfolio. Free advice, free crafting of your business plan. Successful applicants are awarded grants up to $5,000, which enables them to procure goods and materials for their business ventures. 18 to 30, yes. Another program, the Youth Leaders Certification Program, YLCP, is a highly subscribed, and again, this is highly subscribed, training program that equips our local youth leaders and youth workers with effective techniques and methods of youth work and development. It aims to standardize the training of youth leaders and equalize the service delivered to our young people on a national level. The YLCP typically runs for 16 weeks and is facilitated on Tuesday evening from 6 to 9 p.m. The spring cohort commences on March 2nd, 2021, and is scheduled to be completed this July 13th, same year. Again, this virtual offering allowed the ministry to provide this program to youth leaders across the length and breadth of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The next program offering is scheduled for this year, October 5th, 2021, Youth Month. Another program, the Youth Leaders Advanced Training Course. Oh yeah, we're busy. The Division of Youth is in the business of ensuring that our youth leaders remain on the cutting edge, fully equipped to manage the highs and lows, successes and failures, triumphs and defeats our young people experience daily. To ensure that this is achieved, the Division of Youth recently launched a second phase to the Youth Leaders Certification Program. The first of a series of advanced training commenced in May of this year. Youth leaders from New Providence, these are the islands that we included so far, New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Eleuthera, tackle critical issues such as youth, and these are serious times. But these youth leaders impressively tackle critical issues such as youth suicide, physical and substance abuse, conflict resolution, very important, domestic violence, suicide, trauma, unfortunately incest, molestation and rape, and positive youth development and engagement in a COVID-19 environment. Similar workshops will be facilitated by the Division of Youth 2 times per year via Zoom and will be offered to youth leaders who have previously completed the Youth Leaders Certification Program and need refresher or updated material. The aim of these refresher courses is to equip our youth leaders with the requisite tools to identify telltale signs of these issues and to outline the protocols or procedures they should follow to adequately address such occurrences. These training sessions will be facilitated on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. I'll talk about grants and contributions. The Division of Youth relies heavily on our nation's youth leaders and youth organizations to provide programs, initiatives, guidance, and constructive engagement of our young people, that they become well-rounded, socially apt, contributing members of our communities. Our grants and contribution program further strengthens our youth organizations' ability to carry out their mandates through the provision of funding. These contributions help to procure supplies, materials, other resources, and equipment to facilitate youth programs adequately and effectively. Speak National Youth Month in October. Right? I'm not going to be on the floor too long. October is designated as National Youth Month, when we celebrate, acknowledge, and highlight the positive contribution that youth youth leaders and youth organizations make to national development. And they're very critical. And we have to engage them. A lot of times we treat them as if they are to be seen and not heard. They stand in the corner. But they are valuable towards the growth and development of our country. To make this a success, the ministry provides each island with funding to assist with the organization of its own pre-approved activities during the month. We're giving you some latitude. Organize the program. Of course, we're going to make sure that it's all within reason. They all follow our guidelines and protocols. We're giving them the latitude to organize the program. We anticipate that, much like last year, all of our national youth activities and initiatives may have to be done virtually. We're hoping that more of our people are vaccinated and we can open up a little more. These activities includes the always popular Youth in Parliament, and we always look forward to that. A virtual youth march and rally, and the National Youth Award, which this summer will culminate our Bahamas with our Bahamas Youth Summit. The Bahamas Youth Summit will focus on the engagement of stakeholders and partners for the purpose of reorienting them with the draft National Youth Policy. This is a very important document, and speak to the proposed implementation and accompanying legislation. The Bahamas Youth Summit is scheduled to be held at the end of October. Mr. Speaker, let me brag a bit about sports. The Department of Sports, Mr. Speaker, the feeling of nationalism is indispensable to the area of nation building. Sports is perhaps one of the strongest common threads that binds people together and help in developing a feeling of patriotism and unity that can counter motives of division and strife. It helps in elevating qualities of dedication, determination, teamwork, and a passion for fitness in the psyche of a nation. Mr. Speaker was talking about that last night, that experience that he had with Mark Rudy, running for miles before even beginning your workout session. Fitness is very important. And according to the Minister of Health, the more fit we are, the better, over the former Minister of Health, the more our chances are of fighting off infectious and other form of diseases. Any major international sporting event like the Olympics or a World Championship promotes universal brotherhood and gives one a sense of belonging to a larger global community. And I can tell you, the member for Carmichael and the other athletes can tell you, and the speaker who's an athlete, friends who you would have met on the international scene, as well as Fox Hill, and St. Barnabas played basketball too in college. Friends you met from back in the day. There's a connection, there's a bond that you don't ever lose. Only death breaks those bonds, I can tell you. Sports persons have always served as successful goodwill ambassadors. Just look at our current athletes like Shawnee Miller, Ebo, Stevie Gardner. I will go all up in my presentation. The Golden Girls, the Golden Knights, Buddy Hield, Donquil Jones, and now the buzz in baseball. The buzz in baseball, one Jazz Chisholm, to name a few. Our international elite athletes, through their tremendous, outstanding performances, continue to elevate the reputation and image of the Bahamas on a global scale beyond what our marketing dollars can afford to do. Regrettably, Mr. Speaker, just like last year, the coronavirus COVID-19 continued to disrupt the certainty of competition for our many athletes, though that never deterred their determination training and preparation. Once again, the career of the game, arguably the best showcase for junior track and field athletic talent, originally scheduled for Bermuda, was canceled, as were the career of the Games Championship scheduled to be held in Barbados. The Olympics. Because briefly on the Olympics. Our top world-class athletes are poised to compete on the biggest global stage for sport, the Olympic Games. And again, there are waves of uncertainty. One day it's on, one day it's off. But it's looking like it's more on now than off. One thing we do know for sure, whether the Olympic is on or off, our athletes will be ready. Ready to run, jump, throw, and swim. Mr. Speaker, I pray that the environment in Tokyo is safe enough for our athletes, unlimited officials who have dreamt of this honor to represent their country and are diligently preparing. Like I said, the speaker earlier, I've already attended 2 Olympics, one at 31, one at 35, and now one this year. I'll be making my 3rd Olympic Games if all goes well at the age of 56. How many other athletes in the world can say that?
Not many. Not many.
They are anxious, our athletes are anxious. Say I'm going as minister, but I'm still going to the Olympics. Mr. Speaker, despite you remember?
Yes, I do.
Despite the limited opportunities for sporting competitions to make its usual impact, we have had the privilege of witnessing several commendable and outstanding performances. Please allow me a moment to reflect on some of them. Let's go to basketball. Buddy Hill, a Grand Bahamian native, continued his stellar performances on the hardwood floor. Buddy, we are sports power. We are sports power. We don't realize how powerful we are in sports globally. Exactly. She had one picture, I believe, that would have made the world record for views. Nowadays, with the internet, the picture that Foxhill had, if we had the internet back in those days, that would have got more clicks than any other picture. And I think you know what I'm talking about. Yes, Foxhill, remember. Buddy, who plays the forward position for the Sacramento Kings, achieved a historic feat. Mr. Bahamian, he achieved a historic feat back in February 2021. In February, and just Buddy's 350th last NBA game played against the Charlotte Hornets, he hit his 1,000 3-point shot. That remarkable feat. See, Bahamians are kind of funny, you know. That record was held by Steph Curry. But see, Steph Curry took it from another Bahamian, Klay Thompson. So Buddy said, wait a minute, you took my record from Bahamian, I'm coming back after you brought it back home. And you know, Steph Curry took 369 games, but he did it in 350. Think about that. That's phenomenal. Hale became the fastest player in NBA history to reach this milestone. Another Grand Bahamian, Dontrell Jones, number 747 of the Connecticut Suns in the WNBA, is also making waves with a double-double. You know, she just won the championship over in Europe. Now she's back in the United States in WNBA. Talk about another one, Yolette McCurran, daughter of legendary basketball coach and former. Okay. Another hit coach. She's the coach of famous Gladstone Moon McPhee. She established herself as one of the best basketball coaches, female coaches in the United States. She's current head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels women basketball team. Following a breakout season, including 5 SEC wins and 3 top 25 wins, Ole Miss has inked coach Yolette McCurran for a new 4-year contract. So she's secured until 2025. Now, this one is kind of bittersweet. This is bittersweet, and I think Hank Johnson is going to pay attention to this one. DeAndre Ayton of the Phoenix Suns is also having a breakout year. Now, here's the bitter part. I'm a Laker. I'm not afraid to say that. I put for the Lakers. I'm gonna say the Heat. But the Los Angeles Lakers, the great Lakers, with LeBron James on the team, got knocked out in the first round. By who? And it just the safest love. Died for me. Amazing love. Amazing love.
Honorable member, if I could interject there, I have to support that even though I'm a Laker. And I support it because the product of Nassau Village, DeAndre Ayton, for the Phoenix Suns. He's a product of Nassau Village.
Absolutely. Mr. Speaker, as much as I love my Lakers, I would accept that beat from the Phoenix Suns because it was done by a Bahamian. Yes, come on. That's a trade-off. I can live with that one. I can live with that. That's not a problem. I can live with that. And I used to pull for the Yankees also, but if they ever play the Miami Marlins, the Jazzism, I'm sorry, Yankees, I'm in trouble. I go to Miami. I got to pull for my own. But speak of football, 6'5", 226-pound Grand Bahamian native, Michael Strawn. Achieved his dream when he was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts during the draft in May. Selected in the 7th round, but he's making waves. They're all looking at him and saying, you know, he reminds of Megatron. That's the side, yeah. They're saying they're comparing him to Megatron right now. And that's serious. Because other greats walk on the football field and make waves for themselves. And he's drafted in the 7th round, but he's looking pretty good. And he's now joining other NFL players like Ed Smith, played for the Denver Broncos, Alan Ingram, who's playing pickup football. A scout was walking by and saw his stats in his movement and got him invited to camp. And Alan Ingram made it Washington Redskin. Myron Roll. Now, yeah, Alan used to run track too, but it's not Alan Ingram. And I'm sorry, but let me stop mentioning these capos. Another capo made Tennessee Titan teams, Myron Roll, neurosurgeon. He was drafted, came here, and right now he's making waves as a neurosurgeon. He got drafted, so he decided. Rhodes Scholar. Brilliant. Decided to give up football, and he's now saving lives in operating theater. There's another one, the Bar Darlings of the Baltimore Ravens. So we have plenty of Bahamians. In coaching, University of Kentucky Bahamian track and field. Remember, for Michael will know this, Rolando Green was named as the Women's Team Coach of the Year for the southern region in the United States for the indoor track and field season. Oh yes, you not want to get triple jumper. Anton Richardson, a former MLB player, he is now coaching the San Francisco Giants. We are doing it. Outstanding coaches overseas, we have Norbert Elliott. We have Coach Sidney Cartwright. We have Dominic Demerit. Devon Superman Sands is now coaching in the United States. Debbie Ferguson, coaching. Savannah Hebert, George, they're all over there coaching. Baseball. Local baseball development league continues to provide a strong foundation base for training for our youth. International baseball leagues have taken note, and increasing numbers of our young athletes are being recruited into the professional leagues, creating economic opportunities like no other for them. Currently, there are more than 20 Bahamian youngsters, more than 20. For capital, that's a big number. Playing professional baseball in the minor leagues and scores more, who are benefiting through athletic scholarships at various colleges throughout the United States of America. I had a hand on it, but this is where. Look at my tongue. Bahamian baseball players, perhaps more than any other sports right now. And yes, even though I run track and field, baseball is making more waves than anything right now on the national they're making big waves. Yes. Undoubtedly right now, Jazz Chisholm is our poster athlete, but is being closely followed by a pool of exceptional talent patiently waiting their call. So impactful, yes. So impactful has Jazz been to the Florida or the Miami Marlins, Mr. Speaker, that the organization, this is big, has agreed to host a Bahamian celebration on Saturday the 12th, this coming Saturday, the 12th of June, in which Jazz Chisholm will be honored and the Bahamas will be highlighted. I'm pleased to say that as Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, representation will be made. Absolutely. Mr. Speaker, professional, we have to show a big time. Absolutely, absolutely. The human heritage will be on full display. Mr. Speaker, professional and amateur sporting events provide much needed economic benefit to both athletes and our country. Equally important, they also provide community pride and national unity here. Mr. Speaker, just talk about Foxville, the Foxville boy. Talk about community pride. We talk about the island of Grand Bahama. We talk about the Lucifer, the entire Bahamas. The onset of COVID-19 dealt a piercing blow to the sports world. We are pleased, however, that the one bustling stadium, track, and parks are slowly and carefully seeing activity again. Not Abaco just said it's hot off the press. They're now expecting over 2,000 Bahamians to show up in grand style at Marlin Stadium on Saturday. Bahamian Heritage Month. So we are doing these things. We are indeed a sports power. The Department of Sports Program, let me talk about some of our programs. The national governing bodies, NGOs for sports play an important role in facilitating the development of their respective sports. It, therefore, is important that where possible, the government, through my ministry, provide as much assistance, both technical and financial, as we can. In this regard, we have continued to provide financial assistance to the organizations that are registered. There's some regulation now, accountability, and administratively compliant to assist with the various programs. Most recently, Mr. Speaker, my ministry provided financial assistance to the Bahamas Association of Athletic Association to participate in what they considered the last chance for Team Bahamas to qualify for the relay, for the Olympic Games. Well, they fell short in one or two events, but they have another chance. And I do believe that as was given to me, I had a last chance. I always told the story about being in France when my good senior put it on us, tell us if we didn't qualify, we was going to be on the next plane back to the Bahamas while the rest of the athletes were going to go on to Australia. I've never been under so much pressure in all my life. But he pulled the best out of us. Carmichael, thank you very much. Come on, give. Oh, yes, he put it up. National record was gone. So I believe that given one last chance, these relay teams will qualify. Our ministry also aided the Bahamas Lawn Tennis Association, we're not just track and field, to assist their men and women's team who will be competing in the upcoming prestigious Fed Cup and Davis Cup tournaments. Athlete Subvention. The Athlete Subvention program has been a tremendous source of assistance to scores of athletes in their respective disciplines. And remember, the word is subvention. It's only to subvention, it's only to assist you. We know it's not enough for you to make a living from. This is the government way of assisting you with your training, with your supplements, and with your coaching. Despite budget limitation, this program offers financial assistance directly and indirectly to 75 of our country's top athletes in 11 different sporting disciplines. Sports Month. The month of November has become customary. Will be celebrated as Sports Heritage Month. We intend to again celebrate our sports legends and athletes in person if possible, and through the use of television and virtual platforms. We anticipate continuing to feature online and televised fitness programs, fitness segments, open dialogue sessions with all sporting organizations and the sporting community, and the television broadcast of our top 20 athletes. We do this, our top 20 athletes from all sports, and this will be done by popular votes. We hope to again host our featured and highly anticipated events, the National Sports Awards Ceremony, and the induction of our national sports legend in the Hall of Fame. And as I said earlier, I'm happy to announce that Peter Marcooney was inducted 2018, so he's able to at least celebrate a year or two of being in the National Hall of Fame, and I think we ought to commend the government for that. The Grand Bahama Sports Complex, Mr. Speaker, there's so much going on in the sporting world, but I must point out an upgrade we at the ministry did recently with extraordinarily little money. Following my appointment as minister, I taught several facilities in Nassau, among them being the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Discovered in storage, there were extra stadium chairs sitting around then. But today, I am pleased to announce that the residents of Grand Bahama have benefited from those chairs as they are now installed in the Grand Bahama Sports Complex. Ministry also installed adjustable starting blocks and a touchpad electrical system to the swimming pool at the YMCA in Grand Bahama, first in the world class upgrade. And we got, yes, thank you very much. And we got a letter of appreciation from Ms. Karen Johnson and her team last week, thanking us for those starting blocks, those adjustable blocks and the electronic touchpad. They say that they have seen a significant reduction in the times of the athletes, the swimmers. And if you remember, but 2 years ago, their son Marvin, I think he got more Carifta gold medals in swimming than ever in the history of swimming. So again, Bahamian, not just Grand Bahamians, not so Vincent, Bahamian athletes are making, no pun intended, waves around the world. The South Beach pools. This once, you have it to speak. This once beautiful facility in the most southern part of New Providence succumbed to the ravages of a series of hurricanes, which all but destroyed the facility. Roof, I think if I say on course because I would not put the athletes in jeopardy by, I'll leave that right there. I'll leave that right there. I'll leave that right there. Because I believe the members saying without even realizing what can be exposed. So I'm gonna leave that right there. This one beautiful facility in the most southern part of New Providence succumbed to the ravages of a series of hurricanes, which all but destroyed the facility. Roof stripped of their shingles, sand and boulders tossed into the pool, and the eventual corrosion of pipes by the salt air made the facility unsafe and unusable. I am pleased, as was reported by the member for Seabreeze yesterday. I'm pleased to report today, however, that my ministry reinvestment in the facility has restored what had become an eyesore into a beautiful swimming recreation facility where young and older folks can enjoy time in the water and perhaps more importantly, learn to swim. The South Beach Pool facility features 3 pools, a competition pool, kiddies, shallow pool, and a fountain pool. The facility will soon be open for use by the public. Mr. Speaker, my ministry continues to work and invest in the development of sports throughout the country. Our mission is to create access and opportunity for our athletes and administrators to flourish in both athletic competition and in the business of sport. The National Sports Authority, the Speaker, our National Sports Authority continues to advance its mandate despite extremely challenging circumstances. As you could well imagine, NSA facilities have been out of use for several months due to the pandemic. And before that, Kendall G.L. Isaac Gymnasium was in disrepair after serving as an emergency shelter for Hurricane Dorian evacuees. Right, Sergeant Shores? Additionally, Mr. Speaker, our Thomas A. Robertson Stadium is in urgent need of repairs and attention. Last budget period, the Ministry of Public Works made much progress in selecting a company to oversee refurbishment work, and we look forward to this project commencing in due course. Mr. Speaker, my ministry also recently made significant upgrades to the facilities at the National Boxing Center. And again, the member from Seabreeze mentioned that yesterday. Management is eager to further effect and complete much needed repairs to the KGLI gym, which is usually a major revenue source for the NSA. Furthermore, the gym must be in optimum form to attract more NCAA and other professional sporting events. And yes, since coming in, I found out that there was a time when the Houston Rockets was in town on vacation and they used the gym just about every day to do their training. But of course, they did it quietly. So again, our facilities are being used. The fact is, all our sporting facilities need consistent maintenance. This is where we fall down. Consistent maintenance and upkeep for the benefit of our athletes and to attract international events, which is one of the overarching goals of the NSA. Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium. I'm almost there. Mr. Speaker, you would note as we traversed the sport center corridor that much progress had been made to the multi-million-dollar Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium, which is currently under construction. Again, we are grateful for the efforts of the Ministry of Public Works, who has carried out this capital works project, and to the technical and construction team, who are just as eager as we are for completion and the inaugural first pitch at the first game day. Mr. Speaker, earlier I highlighted how our young boys and men have been advancing on the international stage in baseball, and it is hoped that this new stadium will be a place for them to further enhance and showcase their many talents. We also look forward to being able to host major and minor league baseball events right here in our own backyard for the benefits of our local baseball and sports fans. And Mr. Speaker, during this cultural event, we hope to meet with the administration of the Miami Marlins, Mr. Derek Jeter and his team, to discuss the possibility of the Miami Marlins moving to Nassau, Bahamas for spring training. We'll do our best to bring that home. Guys will be there. Mr. Speaker, and I'll shift attention to the portfolio of the Division of Cultural Affairs. In the wake of this COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. Speaker, and recognizing the significant impact, volatility on our economy and specifically our tourism sector, there is an urgent need for our country to explore other industries. According to sources, this minister notes that the creative culture industry, or CCI sector, or orange economy, has contributed to 3% of the global economy. It's a lot of money. Yes, 3%. USA, Australia, United Kingdom, China, Malaysia, and India are getting maximum benefit from these industries, as CCI in the United States contributed 4.2%, in Australia 3%, in the United Kingdom 5.2%, in China 6.37%, in Malaysia 1.27%, and in India 0.95% to their GDP respectively. According to the World Economic Forum in North America, listen to this, CCI is a $620 billion industry, generating 4.7 million jobs, which estimates for Latin America and the Caribbean at 124 billion, providing 1.9 million jobs. It is my sincere hope that one day the Bahamas can yield similar success, and we're working towards that end. Mr. Speaker, the scope of initiatives and activities covered by the Division of Cultural Affairs includes matters related to performing arts, music, dance, and theater. You have to pay some attention to culture. Fine arts, sculpture, painting, etc. Literature, publication, books, magazines. We have a lot of Bahamian authors coming on now, and they're doing well. Film production, audio visual production, digital arts, photography, gaming, and app development. Yes, our people that are now coding, they're creating their own apps and making waves. You know, we have a lot of Bahamians working over, working over in Silicon Valley, doing their own thing. Craft, floor work, jewelry making, architecture, my profession, history and heritage research, culinary arts, fashion, exhibition, music production, audio engineering, cultural exchange program, festivals, and national cultural celebration. Mr. Speaker, I wish to expand on 5 important areas of concern as I conclude. The E. Clement Bethel National Art Festival. Mr. Speaker, the E. Clement Bethel National Art Festival is in its 62nd year of existence. I think it's slightly older than I am. It is a one-of-a-kind cultural festival that caters to almost every single age and to every single island and key in the Bahamas. I'm not talking about the rocks now, just the keys. The National Arts Festival seeks to give artists of all genres a platform to express and showcase their talent. The festival is open to all from ages 4 years and up. Schools and communities are invited to participate from February through May. Mr. Speaker, the 2020 festival was hard hit by the onset again of COVID-19 and subsequent lockdowns and restrictions, leaving portions incomplete. Notwithstanding, the ministry team and the industrial professional adjudicators were able to travel and complete adjudication in North and South Andres. Yes, North and South Andres. We took care of you. Mangrove, North and South Andres, Mangrove Key, and Eleuthera. However, I am happy to report that for the first time ever, the 2021 E. Clement Bethel Festival is completely virtual and is currently underway with 371 individual participants and 832 choirs, Junkanoo groups, and ensembles. This is important. Participating islands include Abaco, can't leave Abaco, Auckland, Michael, Andres, Bimini, West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Berry Island, Eleuthera, North and South, Exuma, Grand Bahama, Inagua, Long Island, and of course, capital, New Providence. I invite and encourage all of you to visit our Division of Culture Affairs Facebook page to view some of this year's fantastic talent on display. The National Junkanoo Program. The Speaker, we all know that Junkanoo is considered the highest expression of Bahamian cultural identity. You will be pleased to note that the National Junkanoo Festival has expanded over the years with more family island areas, hosting events and expressing interest in doing so. My ministry manages and coordinate the junior and senior parades in New Providence and provide financial and technical assistance to the various Junkanoo parades across the Bahamas. And you know, St. Barnabas is watching all along. And right now, I'm talking to Junkanoo. He's not even blinking. So I expect St. Barnabas and soon the Prime Minister will soon be in here. We're talking about Junkanoo now. That's between you and the Saxon Valley boys and Luce and all those various groups. We'll facilitate. We are forever grateful for our 30 plus years firm partnership, and we have to pay homage to our sponsors, Sol Petroleum, formerly Esso, whose corporate sponsorship of Junior Junkanoo is legendary and indeed commendable. Come on, we have to give Sol Petroleum, formerly Esso, some big up. On behalf of a grateful nation and thankful young people, our juniors, I say thank you. We all know that circumstances did not permit our usual grand celebration last year. But I'm most hopeful, this is what I'm saying to the Junkanoo Group, I'm most hopeful that conditions will allow the free expression of this year, our most important cultural event come Boxing Day 2021 and New Year's Day 2022. We await guidance from the health officials on this matter. And we're hoping that everything will clear up for us to have these exciting events. Intangible cultural heritage asset. Mr. Speaker, you may not be aware, but Junkanoo, although considered Bahamian, is not owned by the Bahamas. I'll say that again. Junkanoo, even though considered Bahamian, is not owned by the Bahamas. Our nation is currently at risk of losing the option to own Junkanoo and call it Bahamian. However, in October 2020, the ministry and UNESCO submitted a nomination paper on behalf of the Bahamas to outright own the rights to Junkanoo and have it deemed international as an intangible cultural heritage asset. We cannot make the mistake that Trinidad made with the steel drum. The story is now owned by Japan, I believe. Absolutely. Yep. Didn't have copyright to it. It's now owned by Japan. So we cannot make the mistake with Junkanoo. Mr. Speaker, the paper was accepted in Paris, France, and we are now in the phase and process of preparing a case to show that Junkanoo is indeed Bahamian. And of course, I met with Bola and Eddie Dames this morning, who is currently preparing a white paper for us to present the cabinet and ultimately the parliament for us to ensure that Junkanoo is elevated to the level that it should be elevated to. Yes. Other initiative, Mr. Speaker, I would add that in the Division of Cultural Affairs, a slew of new and enhanced program initiatives are on the horizon, which include implementation of a national cultural artisan digital registry. Yes, we're going digital, not Abaco. We're digitizing everything. Implementation of a national cultural policy, implementation of a national arts council bill, recommendation for the implementation of a jungle curriculum in our schools, proposal for a new national performing arts center, National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. Let me touch on that area briefly. Mr. Speaker, the NAGB, like all other areas under my portfolio, had to rely on their creativity to overcome some of the pandemic-related challenges. You know, we never use problems in our ministry. We talk the challenge, we speak the challenges. Problem is too much of a negative word. And out of our challenges, we see opportunities. They have proven to be among the most creative in the ways they manage to keep moving forward. Mr. Speaker, the NAGB continues to make Bahamian art more accessible to the masses at the physical gallery, which is currently open to the public. It is open to the public. I advise you to go and see it. With access for Bahamians and residents being free of charge. Tourists come and enjoy it. Local and tourists are encouraged to go through the garden that is dotted with various art pieces or wander indoors and take an introspective look at Bahamian art and imagination on display. And we have a lot of sculpture in the garden by one Antonius Roberts. Beautiful pieces. While we fully encourage in-person visitation with adherence to the relevant safety protocols, the NAGB has also been a trailblazer, again, North Abaco and the Bahamas, in their provision of electronic contents for art lovers and inquiring minds, both adults and children, by way of online virtual tours and activities. I encourage all to visit us online at nagb.org.bs. Certain pages catered to teachers and families and community outreach programs are also available online. Of special note, Mr. Speaker, is the COVID-19 resource select section and the important social action partnership of the NAGB, which is nonprofit, with its nonprofit partners, Friends of the NAGB and Friends of the Arts in the Bahamas, who have collected and continue to receive donations to assist artists in the community with loss of work. Yes, we're looking out for the artists who loss of work and a commercial exhibition due to negative impact of the COVID-19. So we are trying to cover all Bahamians in all areas. Additionally, NAGB proposes to continue its reach into undeserved communities on New Providence and in the Family Islands through our mural program and traveling art exhibition. And that was a very beautiful program. The traveling exhibition went to Lutro, went to Grand Bahama, and it was well received. Other programs that will resume, including the Art, Culture, and Exchange, or the ACE series. Arts, Culture, and Exchange, ACE series, which brings accomplished art professionals from abroad to give lectures, meet with artists, and speak to UB students and other local art exchanges and instruction with teachers and school-age children. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll say it one last time in closing. Yeah, I'm from the Baptist Church. To speak briefly to the Bahamas game. Mr. Speaker, Bahamas, I'm extremely excited to announce that my ministry has begun planning for the 6th edition of the Bahamas game, a national Olympic-style multi-sports program designed to promote, thank you, national unity among the people of the Bahamas. The first Bahamas games were held in 1989, when I was a little rookie, North Abaco and Golden Gates and Carmichael. I was bad back in those days. I can only think about it now. The first Bahamas game was held in 1989, and yeah, I think I was the champion that year. And the last one in 2001, some 20 years ago. The attempt to host such events every 2 years and then every 3 years was interrupted by the economic and physical impacts of destructive hurricanes and other severe international shocks. Force majeure. Mr. Speaker, all previous versions of the games were successful in their intent, as reflected in their revelation of world-class athletic talent in the Bahamas and especially in our Family Islands. We got a chance to bring them to Nassau and give them some exposure, and of course they developed. The first time I met with Carl Oliver, one of our outstanding quarterfinalists, was during the Bahamas Games. Chris Brown from Eleuthera, Salvatore Fines from Albacore, all came to Nassau to compete in the Bahamas Games. Best indicators of this are the subsequent preponderance, like I said, of family island athletes on this country's numerous men and women world and Olympic championship and gold medal teams. The upcoming 6th edition of the Bahamas Games will be timed to coincide with the grand celebration of our nation's Golden Jubilee or 50th anniversary of independence scheduled for July 2023. The Bahamas Games Secretariat will plan and execute the games with assistance of volunteer committees and the various sporting federations and associations. We look forward to this special opportunity to showcase and highlight our local sports power. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state here today that we will not be able to properly host a befitting Jubilee Bahamas game without the solid support of every Bahamian, every budding and professional athlete, and of course, corporate Bahamas. So I encourage all parties to step up to the plate to ensure that we give our young people and our country our very best. And I like to show it. This is really in closing now. It's written. Mr. Speaker, this 2021 budget provides a total of $19,030,586 for my ministry to achieve the government's mandate and implement all these important programs, projects, and activities on behalf of the youth, sports, and cultural communities. It is interesting, of course, to know that that amount, a whopping 25.2%, goes to salary and operation, leaving some $14,190,640 for administrative functioning and programs and project advancement. Mr. Speaker, good things are happening in our nation. We thank the government and people of the Bahamas, and most of all, thank Almighty God for his blessing over our Commonwealth, and I think we should give our Almighty God a round of applause for protecting us. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I express my appreciation for being given this high honor and awesome responsibility to lead the charge on behalf of the good people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Central Grand Bahama, to whom I pledge to do my part in advancing our country and its people forward, upward, onward, together. To Almighty God, in all things, be the glory. Central Grand Bahama and the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture certainly supports this budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central and South Eleuthera.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in this honorable house with a bit of mixed emotions, having to be able to offer my condolences to residents of a great constituency that has passed on in the last week or two throughout the Central and South Eleuthera constituency, Mr. Speaker. Great men and great women, warriors of the soil. Mr. Speaker, Irving Sweeting was a resident born and grew up in Deep Creek. He moved into New Providence where he took his business. He's a Lutheran. And he once created what they call one of the famous Buddhist go-go ribs. That recipe came from the community of Deep Creek, Eleuthera. May his soul rest in peace. I offer my condolences to his family, to all of them. Mr. Speaker, we have another gentleman by the name of Mr. Jeff Cartwright. He hails from Tarpon Bay. Young man, he passed on yesterday. Mr. Speaker, another young man by the name of Tony Smith, a resident from Rocktown, he also passed on a couple of days ago. And Mr. Hilton from Tarpon Bay. But Mr. Speaker, I cannot forget an individual by the name of Brenda Johnson, who hails from the community of Governor's Harbor, who spent part of her life building the community of Governor's Harbor, an entrepreneur, the owner of Buccaneer Club, and used to be the Sigatu Hotel. Family was famous, and they're well known, and they contributed whatever they had. They always helped to take care of the needs of the people in Governor's Harbor. Just recently, Mr. Speaker, during the pandemic, her and her family reached out to all of their staff. They reached out to the locals. What a great lady she was. I offer my condolences to her family. And Mr. Speaker, just a couple of hours ago, this one comes home, is very close to me. Most people in the country might not have known by now, but Ella Sands from Palmetto Point. Her name was Ella Nixon, originally from Inaugural, who came and made her home in Palmetto Point, who spent most of her adult life taking care of the children of Palmetto Point. Ella Sands was known for an entrepreneur, a lady who looked after the kids, who grew up many kids in that community. Today, a lot of them have become great men and great women because of the teaching that she taught them. Ella Sands was an individual who served her good master from all aspects, a member of the Methodist Church. May Ella Sands' soul rest in peace. She's done a remarkable job. Not only did she do it for them, but as a young boy, a little boy growing up, my first job was with Ella Sands at their gas station. And Ella Sands was the one who sold the first pair of brown pants for me. That at those days, Shell Bahamas used to use the yellow tops and the brown pants. Ella Sands was the one who did those for me. So to her family, I offer you my deepest sympathy and the residents of Eleuthera. Mr. Speaker, I thank our Lord who has enabled me to become, he counted me in his fullness. I thank the Almighty God for affording me the privilege to stand in this honorable place to raise my voice on behalf of the wonderful people of South and Central Eleuthera. Mr. Speaker, what a great set of people they are. South and Central Eleutherians are humble people, Mr. Speaker, who know what it is to wait their turn. And they have endured a lot over the past few years, Mr. Speaker. And I stand with them, and they will stand with me. Mr. Speaker, what a great set of people they are. I'm honored to be able to contribute to this budget debate. Mr. Speaker, the Psalms remind us that the Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. In South and Central Eleuthera, prior to the general election of 2017, and the victory of this caring free national movement government under the leadership of one great Hubert Alexander Minnis. We were walking as if we were in the dark. Mr. Speaker, I recall as a child growing up in the quiet settlement of Palmetto Point that on rainy days, I and my playmates would pray to be on the outside in the rain. My grandmother always said, boy, if you play in that rain, you will get sick. So, Mr. Speaker, I always knew that playing in the rain was not a good thing. Mama was right. She warned me even as a child not to play in the rain. Mr. Speaker, I listened to Mom. That is why I stand here today as a proud member of the Free National Movement in this Parliament, as a member. The people of South and Central are very smart people. They knew it was not good for them to play in the rain, like I had learned and have taught my children not to play in the rain. Mr. Speaker, you see the opposition came to South and Central Lutheran, brought the rain and asked the people to support them without being able to come outside and see for themselves what was happening. Mr. Speaker, that is how they do business. They like to keep you in the dark and invite you to play in the rain. Yes, Mr. Speaker, they want to make the Bahamian people sick. That was evident during the restoration of the main water tanks in Governor's Harbor at the Navy base. Mr. Speaker, the then Minister of Works, who is now the sitting member of Parliament for Cat Island and leader of the opposition, knew exactly of what I speak. But for the grace of God and the whistleblower and the quick response of the then Chief Counselor, who is today your member of Parliament, your member of Parliament, the contract was quickly reviewed, and the people of South and Central Eleuthera today are grateful to the Almighty to see that we survive. Mr. Speaker, I recall as the Chief Counsel in Central, when the call came out, when they were repairing those tanks at the U.S. Navy base, I actually visited that site, Mr. Speaker. And the chemicals and the equipment that came are there today, sitting there right now. And we were warned. And after we raised the cane about it, that contract was canceled. And so perhaps that has saved the lives of many Lutherans. We are grateful to God for that. But I'm here today to say, those cloudy days are gone now. You can see, and we can see clearly. I say to the people of South and Central Eleuthera, look around. My Lord knows it was a long time coming, but the Free National Movement government always showed love and respect for the people of South and Central Eleuthera. Our Prime Minister made a promise to always listen to the voice of the people, and in 2018, clearly the people of Central and South Eleuthera spoke. The cry was heard throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the world at large. Eleuthera Island, more in particular, the southern settlements came out in sounding efforts to say to the government that South Eleuthera needs a Disney project and need it now. Mr. Speaker, persons whose voices echoed loud and clear in that place on that warm evening in the settlement of Greencastle have since passed on. May their souls continue to rest in peace. Mr. Speaker, I pray that their echoing and the relentless efforts of my wife Shelley, all of the local committees, and the leaders of South and Central Eleuthera who came out in great numbers to echo their sentiments for a better way of life for the people will continue to reign in the daily hearing of we the people. It's my prayer that the good which has begun by so many wonderful souls will continue to be clear in the minds of those persons who will make the final decision as to when and how the project will take place. Mr. Speaker, the people of South Eleuthera are depending once again on this FNM government to complete the good work that it has begun. Mr. Speaker, I take a pause there. Mr. Speaker, never in the history in life that I have seen such nonsense as a young man and as a member of Parliament for South and Central, when there are thousands of signatures for saying to the people of Eleuthera, we don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. And when we're going to allow persons from all over the world to say to us, projects are not good for the people of Eleuthera, when there are approximately 90 to 80,000 signatures who knows nothing about Eleuthera, Mr. Speaker, who knows nothing about my island, Mr. Speaker, who choose to speak for the people of Eleuthera, Mr. Speaker. We speak for ourselves, Mr. Speaker. We went off to school to be trained to know what's right from wrong and what is good for our environment and what is not so good for our environment. And we stand behind the decision that we made as a people, and we're urging our government to move this project forward, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's been too long now. We have allowed the outside world to determine the direction which Eleuthera will go, Mr. Speaker. And to be quite frank with you, I am sick and tired of it as the member of parliament, and so is my people. We spoke, and we spoke loudly, Mr. Speaker. That night in Greencastle was a historical night when both sides came together, never in the history before. When people like James Arthur-Lingham, who was alive then, and Philip Bethlehem held our hands and said, let's do this together. There was no politics involved in that, Mr. Speaker. It was about the people. It was survival of the people, making sure that our people have a fair chance in life and our young people have a future and something to look forward to, Mr. Speaker. We are tired of waiting, Mr. Speaker. It's about time this project come to fruition, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand and I speak for the average person who dare not be able to stand in his honorable house to speak for him or herself. That's what they sent me here for. And that I will do, Mr. Speaker, whenever I get the opportunity. Eleutherians are waiting for the beginning of this project. Mr. Speaker, the road work is presently going on in my constituency of South and Central Eleuthera. To the member of Carmichael, and to the Prime Minister, and to the Cabinet, we say, God bless you. We thank you. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. While there are some who do not and cannot appreciate it, we, the people of Eleuthera, appreciate what you've done for us. Mr. Speaker, I've had 2 phone calls. 2 calls from 2 individuals and said, this road work is a bunch of nonsense. Well, perhaps to them it might be a bunch of nonsense. We are preparing Eleuthera for the future. We are about putting the infrastructure in place so when the economic boom, the island of Eleuthera will move forward with proper infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. And I want the record to be set to those who spread the rumors, in case you don't quite understand what this government is doing. It's not a patch job. This government has put $11+ million in your road that many other islands don't have. We're grateful to this honorable, to this government, Mr. Speaker. How much is it? 16. See, while you all can't appreciate the government for what they're doing, we sure do. We sure do. And that road, what they're calling a patch thing, to those leaders on the opposite side who spreading these rumors in my constituency, it is not patch. I don't think you quite understand what's taking place. You're getting what you call an asphalt road, never in the history of Eleuthera, that will last you between 40 to 50 years. I'll be a grandfather. Perhaps I'll be gone, and that road will still be there if no disasters happen.
You know, how many times they repeat it every election?
Of course, same way. And so, Mr. Speaker, while the government is fixing the worst of the roads, we don't have to worry about the potholes anymore, Mr. Speaker. So far from the north and Breast Tarpon Day, listen, I can call his name. Mr. Thompson said he was driving on the Rocktown last week. He said, Hank, boy, I was coming back. So I had to pull over. I said, why? He said the road was like I was flying a 747. I fell asleep and I parked on the side of the road. That's how good the road feels, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our people are grateful people.
Yes.
We are humble people. We thank God for the Free National Movement and this caring government, Mr. Speaker. While some may say otherwise, it is not a patch job. We will be investing a few more dollars in the next couple of weeks on that same road to make it complete. Mr. Speaker, the settlement roads of Governor's Harbor, Hatchet Bay, Tarpon Bay, oh my Tarpon Bay, will be done in short order, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps you would not get the asphalt throughout the community, but we are grateful for the send and it will finish, Mr. Speaker. Something is better than nothing. And I'm sure it will beat what you have today. Yes. Mr. Speaker, we are a humble and a grateful people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are enjoying those roads. Mr. Speaker, this caring government, after 5 to 6 administrations, promised the good people of Roxanne proper docking facilities, Mr. Speaker. You're talking about stuff that was completed? You see, I'm gonna let the record of the Free National Movement and Saudi Youth speak for itself today, Mr. Speaker.
I don't know what's been done.
And while we complain about this budget, yes, I agree, budget may seem a bit high, but we all understand why it is that. We all understand at the end of the day, when devastation happens, the government has to find ways and means of taking care of it. Yeah, and so we know what we have to do. So let's not play blind as if we don't know what's happening. Listen, 90% of the Bahamians today are educated. And so don't listen to the noise of the market. They understand exactly what's happening here, Mr. Speaker. When we have to subsidize and remove from one budget, one line item to another to make sure that people are cared for, that's what happens in this country, Mr. Speaker. Yes. And then we look at what they had to do recently with the pandemic just alone, Mr. Speaker, and providing some $100+ million in food alone, Mr. Speaker, that speaks for itself what we do care about our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I haven't reached the medical side as yet. How much did we put in medical just recently? How much went into medical? How much emergency flights came out of the Found Islands to New Providence? They had to be paid for, Mr. Speaker. Just quite a bit came from the island of Eleuthera. And we are grateful for that, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, I got ahead of myself. Let me go back. The dock in Roxanne. Mr. Speaker, after 5 to 6 different administrations, my people were promised to have this docking facility. And everyone in the island knows that Roxanne is what we call a main port of entry, Mr. Speaker. And without the proper facilities, you're in trouble. Mr. Mackey, sorry. Mr. Noy Luzra? Man, it is not nice. It is great. It is great. I visited that dock whenever I can. And even though they say I haven't been in my constituency, let me set this record straight. I want to set this record straight. Let me throw this out. I want Eleutherians to know that during the time that I was in New Providence, my mother-in-law was not feeling well when we had to move to New Providence. I traveled to Eleuthera every Monday on the Bahamas daybreak in my vehicle and in the height of the pandemic. Traveled there on Mondays and returned to New Providence on Tuesdays. I traveled on Thursdays and returned to New Providence with my family on Fridays. There was not 1 month I was not in my constituency. So come again, get that straight. I was in my constituency. That's a good man, Quincy. Thank you very much. Bahamas, that's how I got there. And so those who are spreading the rumors, let me set that straight today. Oh yeah. Mr. Speaker, the dock in Roxanne is long overdue. We now have the proper docking facility in Roxanne, and we now have most size vessels now can come in there because they have dredged 200 by 200 and the channel is there. We're just waiting for the good minister and the good prime minister, along with his team, to come and cut that ribbon. Coming. And then, Mr. Speaker, the fishermen's dock, as we speak, are being repaired in Roxanne. Oh, yeah. as we speak, Mr. Speaker.
Plenty work done at them, man.
And so,
Thanks for the pandemic.
yes, and during the crisis, Mr. Speaker,
Good minister work.
this happened. And Mr. Speaker, we have presently, from the time the passport office came to Eleuthera, the minister left it. Minister, so far, they have distributed over 400 passports in the last 60 days in the island of Eleuthera. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about progress, Mr. Speaker. Progress at its fullest, Mr. Speaker, where people are being cared for, Mr. Speaker, and no longer do Eleutherians have to travel to New Providence to collect or to have a passport, Mr. Speaker. But we've done nothing. Mr. Speaker, again, I'm grateful. It's a fact. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking about the progress in the constituency of Central and South so far. Mr. Speaker, when the mailboats now pull up the Governor's Harbor dock, when you pull up the Governor's Harbor dock now, Mr. Speaker, when you're driving off that dock now, Mr. Speaker, we used to have to go to the left and duck to the right and go and hope you miss a pothole. But Mr. Speaker, from Governor's Harbor dock to Queens Highway, it's like flying on a 747. It's all been fixed. Mr. Speaker, who built it? This Karen F&M government. Mr. Speaker, now I can't slow down because we was neglected for over 40 plus years. And so while the progress comes, you must be grateful and say thank you. And so, Mr. Speaker, while others enjoyed the fat of the land then, we sat by, Mr. Speaker, idle, Mr. Speaker, and today, Mr. Speaker, we are grateful. Today is a day of gratefulness. Mr. Speaker, the roads are being improved. Mr. Speaker, I spoke in this house the last time, and I know the good member from, I think, Bamboo Town got tired of me coming and going to his office. And I know he got tired of the phone calls. But today, Mr. Speaker, Governor's Harbor Clinic is being repaired as we speak. And this is no joke. This is not the mini hospital where people say they was going to build and came to us 2 weeks before the election and never had it signed off by the cabinet or never was able to produce anything for it. That clinic is being done as we speak.
Well, we know the
Now, let me get, of course, I can let you do that one. I ain't gonna jump over your head. I can wait for you. Mr. Speaker, I want to set the record straight for the people of Eleuthera. This mini hospital that's being campaigned on today, then it was a joke, and today it's just a fairy tale. Okay? So they're campaigning on this mini hospital again. But we will not be fooled anymore, Mr. Speaker. Action speaks louder than words, and we all know that. This government is an action government. And so, Mr. Speaker, the minister, I guess he's relieved now. I haven't been at him for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I have to be honest. I know some of my colleagues across the way there get tired. But my people gave me a job to do. And where I sit as a backbencher in seat number 32, I am honestly grateful. And the people of Eleuthera are also too. Mr. Speaker, the good member from Long Island, I don't want to blow your horn, but I got to.
Fight later.
We want to thank you. Oh, man. Listen, all of these talks you're hearing in the Guardian and the Tribune and this paper and the next paper about water being shut down, ask them if it was ever shut down. You saw it a few weeks ago. Was it shut down? No, it looked like it disappeared. But I want them to know. In Waterford, Eleuthera, as we speak, there is a 40-foot container sitting in the front of the yard, and the new RO plan for St. Eleuthera is presently on island and being installed as we speak. And you could take that to the bank. It's being installed as we speak. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have to say this. I got one good supporter in Rocktown, and I can't disappoint them. But you know, when they reach that age, you got to try to please those guys. Because, man, listen, they've been in the trenches. And they're concerned about the amount of water being sold on the road for that golf course. So I need you to clear that up for me, if you will, please. You know what I'm talking about. And so they're of the view, they don't want, listen, this is the message I got. Mr. Johnson, don't let them break down our machines. That's for us, not for them. So I'm saying to you, I need you to just clarify that for me, if you will, please. Mr. Speaker, moving forward, I've asked my government to please, by all means, to try and to consider the island of Eleuthera, not just for Central, but for the entire island of Eleuthera, when it comes to the medical, to please look into make every effort possible to construct that mini hospital that we've been asking for so long. Mr. Speaker, I want to use this opportunity to say to the motoring public in the island of Eleuthera, now that your roads are being fixed, we've had quite a bit of casualties before. I'm just asking you now to please be cautious, especially entering Queens Highway. And the life you save might just be your life. Be careful, because that road could fool you, and there may be some serious consequences. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the management and staff of BPL, in the from Mr. Dean, who have improved on our street lights. But there's some concerns in the deep south area where the power surges off and on sometimes, and if you could pay some attention to that, we would be grateful for looking at that. Mr. Speaker, I'm just going to cut through this speech a little bit because of time. And but you know, I don't like to speak long. But
Talk to the people. Let the people know what you're doing.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I am very concerned about, after looking at our port of entries, which is Roxanne and Governor's Harbor, our airports, both airstrips, Mr. Speaker, need some attention. Our airstrips are getting out of hand. Some of our investors who are coming in just recently, just for every time they bring their jets in, the heavy jets, $30,000 to $40,000 repairs for their landing gear and their tires. We need to address that. Eleuthera, the economy is beginning to move. Just this week, go on, Mr. Speaker, the amount of tourists that's in the island of Eleuthera is surprising to see. Yes, we get a new airport in the north, but Governor's Harbor and Roxanne is the two that need some attention, and we need to look at both airstrips. We need to look at both airstrips at both airports. And the Roxanne International Airport is in desperate need of a fire truck, firefighting equipment, is needed at Roxanne International Airport. We dare not, please, do not overlook that. Eleuthera is beginning to move. Tourists is beginning to return, and the island is beginning to buzz. We just have to prepare ourselves for the boom. Now, Mr. Speaker, the last time I spoke in this honorable house, I spoke about a few projects that were taking place in my constituency. And we all are aware, due to the pandemic, that everything came to a lockdown and came to a halt. Happy to announce, Mr. Speaker, that most of the projects, most of them, has now begun to open their doors up, and they're now beginning to complete with the construction. And so I may call a few names here and there, but that is because of what is actually happening. Mr. Speaker, the Potlatch Club in the Governor's Harbor and some other point, they're beginning to complete their construction. The Eleuthera property is beginning to complete their property. Jacks Bay is moving a bit slow. I don't really know what's happening in there, but they're doing some work. And so Palapia, which is the project at the U.S. Navy base, it's in its final stages of approval. And once that is completed, they'll be moving forward with that. Of course, Mr. Speaker, let me leave this alone. I made noise for that already. Mr. Speaker, I have a concern. I have a very serious concern. The concern that I have, Mr. Speaker, is we talk about this crown land throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. My island is no different from any other. Mr. Speaker, I'm of the view. I am not of the view that every Bahamian should have a piece of crown land. Because if you give it all away, then what my grandchildren are going to have, what my children are going to have when they come along. I think it should be done at a moderate pace. What is needful is lawful, Mr. Speaker. That's my view. But I think that we need to open up to allow some Bahamians, young Bahamians, to be able to acquire a piece of the rock. And that's the problem I'm having in Deep Creek, Rock Sound, Tarpon Bay, and then the Palmetto Point area. There are crown land in there, and I think the people are entitled to some of that crown land. Saying that I'm on the crown land, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about a vexing problem in Rock Sound again. See, Rock Sound and Governors are the two capitals of the Eleuthera in that section. So they both basically have administration offices, they have medical facilities, they have the airport. And so they were always considered the capital. Those two communities, and further north would be Harbour Island. So, Mr. Speaker, Roxanne community has had a problem with the burial site for the last 10, 15 years. Unfortunately, like the member from North had a situation in Spanish-Ville, they had to purchase land, Mr. Speaker. In South Eleuthera, the government owned thousands of acres of ground land in that southern area. As the member of parliament from Central and South, I never go into any township and make a decision unless it is approved by the leadership of that community. Whether you are a member of parliament or not, you are to adhere to the voice of the people. You are just the messenger. I want to send this message clear to the people in Roxanne. It is your township. It is your community. The Crown land is held in trust by the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on behalf of the people, and you have a right to stand and speak. Mr. Speaker, the committee, I met with the committee on several occasions, and they decided at one point it's going with communist land, that didn't materialize, and then okay. Communist lands are like, communist land in every island, they can say what they like, it's a fact. They are like the Indian tribes. Land disputes are never settled. Land disputes are never settled in those community organizations. For what reason, I don't know. But Crown land belongs to the government of the Bahamas and the people. And the advice was, let's go get a piece of Crown for the burial site. They've done that. We have had individuals who contributed. Right now in Roxanne, there are approximately about 5,000 blocks sitting on the ground that was donated, waiting to erect this cemetery. And Roxanne Cemetery today is full. But in every community, whenever you want to do something for a community that benefits the entire community, there's always someone or someone who have an agenda. They pops up out of nowhere. And they become owners of Crown land. And when you do the research, they never own that land. And they stops the progress of these communities. We need to learn to come together for the betterment of our communities and not for individuals. And so the project in Roxanne is stopped. And I can say this, and somebody may take this differently. So last week, Mr. Speaker, the township of Roxanne decided to have a town meeting to seek approval again. That township was not allowed to hold a public meeting, open air meeting at the park. Listen good now. I was informed that they were stopped. I didn't allow them to have a gathering on Thursday, but the opposition was allowed to have a gathering on Saturday in Rock Tarpon Bay during this pandemic. So the question arises, how did this happen? One set of rules cannot be set for one set and another set for someone else. That's unfair.
Yeah.
And I spoke with the chairman, who brought to my attention, and I say to those who are in authority, if it's good for Peter, it's good for Paul. And that should not have happened. If he's going to allow one organization to have their meetings, the other should have been able to have a meeting as well. The Tennis Association planned a tennis tournament for the kids. That had to be canceled. So I dare not throw any missiles or anything at anybody, but the facts is facts. And so it needs to be looked into. You cannot treat people in that fashion. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, quite a bit has been done. The record for this government and South and Central will speak for itself. Mr. Speaker, during my tenure or during my time as the Member of Parliament for South and Central, we've carried out quite a bit of projects. The persons are asking the question, what did they do? Well, the report card will be released soon and very soon. But Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the residents of Eleuthera that during the pandemic, myself, along with individuals who contributed to the people of Eleuthera, we spent well over $200,000 in purchasing food and giving out food from Hatches Bay in the north to Benjamin Town in the south, Mr. Speaker. In Central, Mr. Speaker, we've had the 2 largest food distributions ever, Mr. Speaker. We had a drive-by in Savannah Sound in the Park, and then we had the distribution of the persons came from various communities with the vehicles and picked up the food items and distributed the food to the residents. We did the best we can with what we had. And those persons who contributed, I want to thank all of them. Mr. Speaker, not only did we do that, but we came together as a people during the time of Dorian. And we were able to put together 2 vessels to go to Abaco. And what we did, Mr. Speaker, we chartered the Bahamas Daybreak. There were about 80 persons that went on that boat. They took their trucks, loaded down. They gave up their time. Yeah. We had the Bimini shipping. We had pallets came in from the United States. The government gave us the exemption on those items, down to generators, tops, you name it. We went into Abaco on a Friday and spent the entire day. They cooked hot meals on board, and we did the best we can for our brothers and sisters in need. Mr. Speaker, I choose to say that today because I met a resident from Abaco who was very adamant. Met her. But I want to set the record clear. We do care about our brothers and sisters. When it was our time, Abaconians came to rescue Naughty Doo. And so we were returning the favor. And that's how we should live as a country. So we spread the joy. We share. Mr. Speaker, I want to also speak about one organization in my community, in fact, two, called the One Lutheran Foundation, SEEP, Mr. Ingram and his crew, who have been the driving force behind the government or behind the food program and taking care of people throughout the constituency, the island of Eleuthera, which was funded, and however it went, the government played a role in it, and so the One Eleuthera Foundation was responsible for taking care of the islands. The members of parliament had nothing to do with it, and I thank God for that two-way point. Because we get accused of everything, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to thank them and all those persons who worked extremely hard in feeding and making sure that the people were cared for. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak about a group in Parliamentary Point called the Men of Faith. You probably hear me talk about these individuals, and I bring up their name. I bring it up, and I'm going to bring it up again, Mr. Speaker. I've asked my government to assist them with a grant before. Mr. Speaker, this organization are a group of men that came together, Christian, when they go about the island and throughout the world preaching the gospel. But they also lend a hand wherever they're needed. No matter what you're doing and you call on them, they are there. The Speaker of the Parliamentary Point Homecoming Committee, I think in 2015-16, was able to get our hands on a fire truck. We brought that truck, and I was then the president of that homecoming committee. And we turned that truck over to the Men of Faith. Mr. Speaker, today that group has grown from one fire truck to 5 fire trucks today. And they're centrally located in the island of Eleuthera, Mr. Speaker. Not only would have the 5 pieces of the 5 vehicles, but the president and other members of it has now taken over the ambulance service. It's called HASTE. And so HASTE, and they interact with, so they're part of this fleet. And so while you have 5 fire trucks and 2 ambulances and 1 in Hatchaway make 3, that is managed by the Men of Faith. I'm asking the member for some assistance for this group, because these men put their lives on line for people throughout the island of Eleuthera. During this pandemic, there was never one call. Those gentlemen did not go on. And I know it in myself. They didn't have the proper gear, but they still went out there, risking their lives and the lives of their families. And I think the government could at least if we can, give them a grant to help them maintain the fleet that they have. Mr. Speaker, I'm a man, I don't like nonsense. And I have to set this record straight. 2016, the then Prime Minister, Perry Gladstone Christie, and the deputy leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Mr. Davis, who visited one of our homecoming festivals. And he came and he promised to assist us which he did. I must say he did. But I want the residents in Palmetto Point to know the piece of crown land that the Man of Faith will be using was awarded to the Palmetto Point the Palmetto Point Homecoming Committee, along with the township, for public use and not to Hank Johnson. So the video that those on the other side is sending out about Hank Johnson stole the land, I don't steal land. That land belongs to the people. It's the people's land. And so those who send that video, that audio around, be careful. The land was never awarded to Hank Johnson. It was awarded to the people of Palmetto Point. And so the Man of Faith will be using an area to park those vehicles. It's for safekeeping. That the area that was awarded for the little park will still be there. And then another section will be used for the One Illusion Tennis Association to put tennis courts for the kids to play. So they're well organized. And so while you all are out there trying to destroy Hank Johnson and my character, it's all about the community. It's not about Hank Johnson. So I want to set that right straight. Mr. Speaker, I want to read this. So Illusion Division under the command of Chief Superintendent Brian Rule has been very active for the past 4 months. The list of police activities that are community-based are as follows. Ms. Mariah, I want you to pay attention to this because I'm proud to be able to read this. The police has established a school program called Choices. This team of officers in this program has visited many schools throughout the district using entertainment to get the message across regarding bullying, peer pressure, and dangerous drugs. Police communities walkabouts have been conducted along with the NNWC, the National Neighborhood Watch Group, in most of the settlements on Illuswa. The officers have also introduced a program called Coffee with a Cop. The community's members sit and have a coffee with a police officer and discussions concerning the communities. There have been 3 pastors forums held between the police and the religious leaders in South and Central and North Israel in their meetings. Both groups pledged to work together to deal with some of the social ailments of crime and domestic disputes. Also, the concept of pastor or patrol was introduced. The police youth involvement comprises of the following programs. A youth band, which has been rejuvenated under the direction of the police with a combined membership of 105 young Eleutherians. In addition, the Eleutheri Division has launched a youth program called Eleutheri Royal Youth Group, ERYC. This group focuses on character building, leadership, skills, self-discipline by promoting a healthy, drug-free lifestyle and community awareness. The program recruits young men and women with potential or guardian consent between the ages of 11 through to high school as has been launched throughout Illuswa, including Harbor Island and Spanish Wells. With a membership of over 350 young people. I'm going to pause here. Mr. Speaker, Saturday before last, I had the opportunity to visit this program. And they were at the U.S. Navy base. Mr. Speaker, I have never seen so much youth in one place on the island of Illuswa in my life. I was so pleased to see our young kids in a positive way. Mr. Speaker, the first quarter, academics and membership and partnership, second quarter, drilling and discipline, third quarter, road trips, food camps, and natural trails. Fourth quarter, community initiative and community Thanksgiving. Mariah, Speaker, for you, I salute your force in the island of Odessa. They're doing a remarkable job. I say to Superintendent Rule, congratulations, good luck. Our youth is heading in the right direction under his leadership. Mr. Speaker, I will now turn to my various communities that needs a little attention. Men, I'm not complaining, but these are little things that need some attention. And this is the place to bring it. I don't want my constituents to believe that I am not aware of what's happening in my constituency. And I want them to know that I am fighting for them. Mr. Speaker, throughout the island of Eleuthera, we have several dump sites. Okay, and it goes into the north, goes into the northern area as well, where we need to have some cleaning up done. And in most areas, whenever there's high winds, the debris flies across the road and it doesn't look nice at all. We need some attention in there. We need environmental help to deal with this matter and deal with it as soon as possible. Because we can see the boom is beginning to take place in Eleuthera. And it is embarrassing sometimes when you pass these dump sites and you're seeing all the rental cars and the tourists passing. And so it needs some attention, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I spoke about the crown land for Deep Creek. Deep Creek now awaits the government to make a decision to allow some of the residents to be able to have a piece of the rock. Their sporting facilities need some attention. I mentioned this before, and every time I mention this in the House, Parliamentary is still waiting on cable TV. And they're only asking for a basketball court. Parliamentary is a small community that sits at the very tip of Eleuthera, just before the Lighthouse Point, who've been there for years and years and years, and they're very small. And if we can assist them with just a basketball court, I think we'll be grateful. Mr. Speaker, the settlement of Green Castle is in desperate need of a sporting facility, meaning a park, which I attempted as a member to do something with the area that we choose. The hill was a bit too high. We had some self-help that would go into assist us, but we don't have the funding to cut down that hill to be able to facilitate that. And so that has somewhat brought us to a stop. We'll see what happens. But we're asking the government and the Ministry of Youth and Sports to consider that Green Castle can use some facilities for playground purposes. Roxanne is in desperate need of their clinic. During that traffic accident with the bus is one that I will never forget. And so I'm asking my government to please consider, let's do something with the Roxanne clinic. I spoke about the airport in Roxanne already. We're grateful for what has happened with the dock facilities in Roxanne. Mr. Speaker, great community called Tarpon Bay. Tarpon Bay is one of the last fishing villages, I believe, in this country. A lot of young men and young women, a lot of young men in Tarpon Bay are still fishing. And so we're just asking to have those two docks repaired as soon as possible in the Tarpon Bay area. Of course, we know that the settlement road in Tarpon Bay needs some repair, needs to be repaired, and we're asking the government to speed that up as quick as we can to take care of the settlement of Tarpon Bay. Savannah Sun, small community again. Just asking for a little fishing dock on the Atlantic side, just a couple of poles, and they can take it from there, and just an extension up in the village for a piece of road that they need because the community is expanding. In Tarpon Bay, Mr. Speaker, Tarpon Bay and Roxanne, Dentist Bight, they have a lot of homes in the community areas, we call. And so we're hoping and we're asking the government again to consider, if you don't pave all the roads, we can have the main access roads going into those areas paved, so those people can have a better way of life. They've installed their own power lines and they're living in those homes and to make life better for them. If we can try to do something with the roads going into those areas. Mr. Speaker, the settlement which I grew up in, from Battle Point. You have one little dock at South Point that just need a few poles and then, of course, put back because the hurricane just took out a portion of it. If we can get those put back and have the dock, have the top resurfaced, we would appreciate that. So, Emma Cooper Primary School, the good minister of education and I have had a conversation concerning the classroom at Emma Cooper. I visited that school and definitely the children were being taught on the area which we call the gallery, but there's an area where a stage used to be. And that area is not conducive for where I saw those children. So the PTA started many years ago and they erected a building. And they're asking the Ministry of Education to at least help us finish it. I think 80% of it is done. And if the ministry could step in and assist us with that, we will be grateful. Governor's Harbor, we have the 50.44 acres of land that we were asking the government to turn into a subdivision. Governor's Harbor is like Hatcher's Bay. Every time I speak in this honorable house, I speak about land issues. I speak about it because I know what my people are going through. And I have to deal with that almost on a daily basis. But the land is available. And I see no reason why we cannot come together and solve this. Give our young people a chance to own a piece of the rock. And so that 50.44 acres are sitting there in Governor's Harbor belongs to the government. And if, it just to be able to allow them to purchase a piece. We all came to this house and we did something for Abaco. We made land available there. We did something here in New Providence. We did something in Grand Bahama. And and man, listen, Eleuthera can use it. We would be grateful. We appreciate that very much. And this little settlement called James System. I must be honest about this. James System have a little dock. Just a little dock. We just need a few $1,000s to have that dock resurfaced. And I was told to remind the government of that dock. And we need that access road in the back of James Point to be cared for. Hatchet Bay again, we have the dock that belongs to BAIC. That dock needs some attention out there. And of course, if we get the road work sorted out, it has to be along with the land. Hey, my people, we'll be grateful. Mr. Speaker, excuse me? Yeah, they have a shipyard that's been built. They're doing pretty good now. Yeah. And so that has brought some changes to Hatchet Bay. Am I always gone? Wow. Right in time. Mr. Speaker, I might have forgotten a few things, but I want to say to the people of Eleuthera, Hank Johnson has been here for 4 years. I've been involved in public life from the age of 12 years old, before I could even register. I continued then, I continue today in my 50s today. I've supported my people, I've supported my island. I believe in the people of Eleuthera and I believe in my island. And I have charted the course to continue to stand and fight. I fought a good fight. I will continue to fight. And I want you to take into consideration your options. Hank Johnson have a profile that you can always report to. Check what the other side is sending you. And let's compare the profile and see who is the better man, you. To the good people of South and Central, I pray that you will hold my hand one more time so that we can continue this journey which we began. To the people of Central and South, I love you. I'm proud of you. Let's continue to work together. And let's not forget, this time will be even greater. Mr. Speaker, South and Central wholeheartedly supports this bill, this budget, Mr. Speaker, Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. As many. Chair recognizes the honorable member for North Eleuthera.
Mr. Speaker, forgive my impatience. You know, I sat happily to hear my colleague speak. And we represent the island of Eleuthera.
Proud man.
And when we speak for Eleuthera, we can speak with authority.
That's right.
Let me say, Mr. Speaker, allow me the opportunity to extend condolences to Mrs. Shirley Bowe, the wife of one Mr. Sugar Kid Bowe, who I think every Bahamian should know and be aware of. Mrs. Bowe was born in Harbor Island, even though she may have spent most of her life here in Nassau after she married the illustrious Sugar Kid Bowe. But this past Saturday, we lay her to rest in St. Catherine's Cemetery in the quaint, beautiful Harbor Island. I also want to make condolences to a very, very special friend and family member, Bishop Samuel Higgs, whose wife, Betsy, who he fondly referred to her as his sweet potato. She recently passed, and will be laid to rest on the 26th of June. Lady Betsy, as she was commonly referred to, will be sadly missed in that quaint settlement of Harbor Island. Mr. Speaker, I often don't give credit and refer to the hardworking board members and staff of Nassau Flight Services, for which I have carriage. Nassau Flight Services, as you are aware, is a government corporation that in this recent times have had to be subsidized immensely as a result of the COVID pandemic. But my team there has done a yeoman's job in offsetting some of the costs or the amount of government or the amount of money the government would have to subsidize that organization. And so I want to recognize Mr. Ricardo Adley, my deputy chairman, Ms. Erica Wilson, who's the secretary of that board, former Senator Derek Sims, Mr. Jeff Evans, Mr. Greg Sherman, and D'Angelo Ferguson for the stellar job that they are doing at that organization. But it would be remiss of me not to recognize the managerial wizardry that Mr. Ricardo Roll performs out at that organization. We thank you and appreciate the opportunity to serve with you. And my colleague has also asked me to convey, because he too is a descendant of Harbor Island, to convey condolences to the good Bishop Samuel Higgs on the passing of his lovely wife, Betsy, So on behalf of Mr. Hank Johnson, I extend those condolences. Mr. Speaker, ever since I've been in this place and every budget debate that we have had, those individuals opposite would always try to determine what our budget is. They are often very descriptive in referring to it in so many ways. But today, Mr. Speaker, I come to report on how the previous budget had affected our last year. So this is of sorts a reporting of the constituency of North Eleuthera. And I say that to say this, Mr. Speaker. One may have his opinion of budgets that have been presented by this administration, but that is their opinion. But in the absence of what has been done by this administration that we could point to, that we can document, and that we can show, it is only that, an opinion. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this glass, depending on the way you view things, one may say it's half empty. But today, I say it's half full. Mr. Speaker, once again, I rise on behalf of the great and wonderful men and women of the North Eleuthera constituency, a constituency whose diversity lends to its magnificent appeal and beauty that resonates the world over. I remain grateful to them for placing their faith in me to represent them in this most honorable chamber. Mr. Speaker, they have elected me to fight on their behalf. And so I will continue to fulfill the mandate placed in me. Mr. Speaker, I beg leave at this junction to express my thanks and gratitude to all of our frontline workers who have been successful in battling the COVID-19 pandemic in our country. We have fared well in this country, and thankfully have not suffered the same experiences as many first world nations. Many of our sister nations that are more industrial and have top-tier health systems have experienced pure horror. The loss of life has been great. And so I admonish you to follow the protocols. We're not through this thing yet. I often like to listen to my good friend, Dr. Sands, in his renditions as it relates to COVID-19. And I know that many of you feel penned up and frustrated and sometimes angry because the manner in which we lived before this pandemic was free flowing. You could go as you please, you could come as you please, you could do almost whatever you like. But the world over, there's been certain restrictive measures taken to help to mitigate further spread. There are those who are now talking that this third wave that we are experiencing could be possibly even worse than the first and second. And so that is why I ask you, my friends, my neighbors, my constituents, and Bahamians throughout this country, let us continue to be vigilant in the things that we do. I know it is a difficult thing to do. I know that some of you, in some instances, are actually angry because of what you have to go through. I get that. Sometimes I find myself not doing what I'm supposed to do in terms of wearing my mask as constantly as I should. But when I think of what could happen should we drop our guard and not adhere to what needs to be done, the thought of widespread or further spread of this disease could only damage this beautiful country of ours. Mr. Speaker, however, I feel that we are heading in the right direction. We have been complimented internationally, and I can tell you, as I work within my communities, constantly talking with the merchants, the second homeowners, the hotel operators, a lot of them share that things are being done as best as could be. We have, Mr. Speaker, we have made some missteps. We have made some mistakes. We have made some errors in judgments, or whatever you want to term or look at them. We are not perfect. Only hindsight. You know, when something happens, we could reflect and say, well, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. But the fact of the matter, we are dealing with something that is new to us. However, when you realize that you have done something that's not working, and you are willing, able to make that tack, or to revert, or to change for the betterment of our country, that shows maturity. Mr. Speaker, when last in this place and talking about this very same issue, I indicated that COVID affects us in two very, very important areas. It affects the health of the nation because we know it's a pandemic, it's a health issue. And because of the degree of this pandemic,
Just a moment, member.
Carry on, Chair recognizes North.
And because of the health situation and where we find ourselves as a nation, we have to be very careful as to how we deal with it. None of us are new to the knowledge of our healthcare systems. All of us at some point have had to visit our health facilities. We know of the limitations that exist in our country. We know of the shortcomings or the shortness in terms of supplies and equipment. And because of that, we have to be very careful in dealing with this issue. We don't have the luxury like some countries that have access to multiple beds or multiple types of equipment that are used constantly in the fight of COVID-19. And so our steps must be guided and they must be careful. And that is why we have been very fortunate to have the medical professionals that we have working with us, Mr. Deputy, and guiding us, Mr. Deputy. And you know, too often times, Mr. Deputy, our Prime Minister is chastised, ridiculed, and criticized for steps that have been taken. I've said to him on many occasions, I said, PM, if I was you, I'll let the doctors say what has to be done. And we know that most of the recommendations come from them. But it's easy to attack the PM because he's a political figure. And we feel that he is holding us back. He has us locked up, shut down. But seldom do you hear persons attack the doctors, the renowned, the world-renowned doctors. They don't do that. But when you are a leader, I guess you have to lead. You have to take criticisms, no matter how unjust they are. And you know, the unfortunate thing, Mr. Deputy, some of those opposite, they know where those instructions come from. They know where that guidance comes from. But it is politically expedient to make it sound like these decisions are just grasped out of the sky. You know, I often wonder, and I believe, and this is my belief, that the reason some never wanted to attend the meetings with the doctors because they would have had plausible deniability. You know, they didn't want to hear what the doctors had to say because it would have to match up with what they say. And they can't say they know it had they been there. But Mr. Deputy, time will tell. And the righteousness of our course will dictate the support that we receive. Mr. Deputy, all of us know the level of our healthcare systems, you know. All of us are challenged. All of us are challenged in utilizing our healthcare facilities. But most of us stay and subject ourselves to it. We don't cut and run. Because we believe in Bahamians. Mr. Deputy, COVID has also attacked the commerce or the finances of this country. All of us have been affected. Well, most of us. Some have prospered as a result of it. Some that I've had challenges with. I've gone on record talking about the high cost of some of these tests during this pandemic. And I still believe today, Mr. Deputy, that the cost of some of these tests were too high. A lot of persons who had to travel to get medical attention here in Nassau, or very, very important meetings to attend or reasons to travel to Nassau, those tests were too expensive. And I'm of the view, Mr. Deputy, that based on what some were making on the travel, on the rapid antigen test, because everybody had to have it after 5 days, and the level of profit that was being delivered from that should have allowed some to, if not give major reductions in the cost of the test, some should have even been given free. I stand by that. And Mr. Deputy, I want to once again thank the Wellness Clinic and Dr. Lightburn and Dr. Colmer and the rest of their team for the assistance that they rendered. And one of the programs that I had and helping to reduce the cost for COVID tests for persons needing to travel to Nassau. Mr. Deputy, as a result of this government had to do some things to offset the cost and the negative effects that this country had to face as a result of COVID-19. And so, Mr. Deputy, the government embarked on a multifaceted approach to bring relief to our people during COVID. They did a food distribution program to the tune of millions of dollars because the people weren't working. The country was basically shut down, so no money was making, but people had to eat. And this administration, this minister-led administration, saw the need to feed the thousands of Bahamians that were in need of food. They also gave unemployment benefits. And you know, Mr. Deputy, what amazes me is that people would say, well, it's the government, it had to do it. Yes, it's the government. Yes, they had to do it. And yes, they did it with monies or tax monies, dollars that came from the people. But guess what? Like so many other things, they didn't have to. But a responsible government would do it. So when it's done, give them the credit for doing it. Because the same money that this government is using to help offset the negative effects of COVID, it's the same money that governments use to do programs for its countries. And need I tell you that oftentimes administrations don't do the things they need to be done. Oftentimes, roads that need to be paved don't get paved. Docks that need to be built don't get built. Bridges that need to get built don't get built. Schools that need to be built don't get built. And it's the same money. So, Mr. Deputy, we do it not because we have to do it. We do it because we care for our people. It's all about you. And so the many things like financial grants and payment deferrals and soft business loans and rental assistance, these are the things that this administration did for its people. And so I'm referring to these because our budget was considered fanciful. Certain phrases was used to refer to it as not being innovating, not being edge cutting. But I'm here to talk about how it affected the North Eleuthera constituency and the constituency of Eleuthera as a whole. Because we can speak to it because of the effects that it had on us, how it assisted us, and how it brought us through. Mr. Deputy, you see, when you talk to the people of the various communities of North Eleuthera, they will tell you that it wasn't a grandizement. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't just on paper, because we in the settlements of North Eleuthera that combine Harbor Island, Spanish Wells, Lower Bogue, Upper Bogue, Current Island, Gregory Town, and Eleuthera Island shores, we've felt the benefit of this administration as a result of its budget. And that's why we can drive on wonderful roads. We can drink the wonderful water that now spews out of our faucets. We can show on how, well, Cat Island will soon be, Mr. Deputy, other parts of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas will be able to feel the benefit or experience the results of the innovative and tenacious and the aggressive, I can use that phrase, member from Long Island. And so I often say in this place that we who live on the family islands does not often feel that we are loved as much as you guys in Nassau. Well, I must confess that Carmichael I must confess that Long Island has, see, you upset me there. Let me stick to the script. I feel Carmichael, and so does the people of North Eleuthera. You know, they feel it when they ride their roads. They feel it when they could drink their water. through Long Island. we feel the benefit of the budget when the needs of our townships have been met, whether it's portable drinking water, new roads, a new Russell Island Bridge, a new graveyard. And a fisheries bill that had been toyed around for years and years and years. Oh, Spanish Wells love that fisheries bill. Mr. Deputy, the whole Bahamas loves the fisheries bill. And I stopped by here today to tell you that the great member for Marco City had messaged me today to let me know that the cabinet of this caring government have agreed that they will now allow the use of compressors outside of the months from August to March. And the only thing that they're waiting on now is for the Attorney General to draft up that legislation. It's approved. It's on the way. You will have it. It's all about you. You know, we don't just talk it. We do it. You know, Mr. Speaker, this budget that we're talking about, that was referred to in so many ways, that it allowed us to touch every settlement in my constituency. There's one constituency that I'm going to be reaching out to in short order to do a minor thing. And I've been speaking with key residents in that community, and they've indicated to me what needs to be done. And that is the settlement of Curran Island. And we're going to be going over there and we're going to be dealing with that. But every other township has felt the love of this great and wonderful administration. It's all about you. You know, we've assisted in Gregorytown with the renovations of the school. And I've already spoke about that. And there were those who felt that we weren't involved, but I'm here to tell you, we were there. We were involved. We helped. We assisted in major ways because this is a caring administration. They say we don't care about the poor, but we could point to things that this administration or the members of parliament in this administration have done to help our people. Mr. Speaker, we care about our constituents. We care about our communities. And we've been able to do the things to make their life better. And Mr. Deputy, I want to touch on one more issue that I should have dealt with earlier while I was dealing with the fisheries bill, because that more or less is related with the community of Spanish Wells. On Monday past, we had a town meeting in Spanish Wells where the subject matter of the cruise ship was heatedly debated. The people of Spanish Wells made it known in no uncertain terms that they wish the cruise industry to be frequenting that island.
See, you better say it in the behavior terms. You just come up with that.
But let me just say this. This is an administration. I'm going to preface this. No. No, that's the reason. There's a reason. There's a reason. This administration had embarked on assisting or trying to. This administration, in their interest and quest to build up new revenue streams, had embarked on doing home porting of cruise ships in this country. And it's an excellent idea. The Bahamas is an archipelago of 700 islands. There are numerous destinations, but there are just some destinations where it does not fit. Spanish Wells happens to be one of those destinations. I've often said in this place, and I continue to say, I represent the best constituency in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Come on.
We are diverse. We have Harbor Island, which is world-renowned. We have Spanish Wells, which used to be a fishing village, but now have embarked upon the tourist industry in their own way. And the level of business that we are experiencing there is bountiful. And so while I understand what my administration was attempting to do, it just does not fit in the scheme of things for Spanish Wells. And guess what? That leaves opportunities for other islands. We've always been our brother's keeper. Whenever there were less fortunate islands in the Bahamas that were experiencing problems, we've stepped up to help and assist. My good friend from North Abaco could attest to that. We believe in being our brother's keeper. And so they will have opportunities, other opportunities. There you go. Done. 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 So Mr. Speaker, I pointed to the many things that have been done in my constituency. But I refer to them because of how we have been, or how budgets in previous years have been referred to. You know, much have been said about these budgets. It has been referred to as fancy. It's been, you know, one member even referred to it as Alice in Wonderland. It's been talked about as dreams and schemes. It's been talked about as carrot dangling. All of these phrases, Mr. Speaker, it's how you look at it. It brings me back to what I said. Half empty, half full. But North Lucifer come to tell you, or like an old Baptist ministers used to say, I stopped by here today to tell you. It's about perception. It's about interpretation. It's about how you view it. You know, your view and my view may be different, but your experience and my experience could also be different. But my experience is my reality. And when my experience shows me the benefit of this budget to this administration, I say thanks. We have done job creation because in my constituency, there's a young lady that has a blog, and many of you may know her, but if you don't, you may know her father, who hails from Harbor Island. Just recently, she was up in Harbor Island, and she was touring Harbor Island. And on her blog, she started to talk about Harbor Island. And she said, come to Bryland, come to Bryland. You could have 3-4 jobs. This place is busting at the seams. That is the business that we are experiencing. Spanish Wells, young persons who had been out on fishing vessels and were very successful at an early age and have built homes, are now returning home to mommy and daddy because a lot of them are staying in these big houses by themselves. And so they return home to mommy and daddy and they're renting their houses on Airbnb and they're staying subscribed fully. And this is one of the reasons why we don't feel that the cruise ship fits our mode of doing business. We're busting at the seams. And so we feel the benefit of this budget. During the month of April, Valentine's Marina, Ramora Bay Marina experienced their best month ever. Wow. In the middle of a pandemic. Wow. Boats were asked to leave or go anchor out now. So, and that's all these family islands need, you know. And everybody want to pile up here in Nassau. We want to be home. And the people wants to come home. And this is what we are talking about. And this is what this administration is attempting to do. Give family islands the tools that they need so that they could go on their own and do what needs to be done to make life better for its citizens. And so when the Prime Minister makes special zones of these family islands to allow for businesses to start and for people to bring stuff in duty-free, and to allow you to start up your business with free, duty-free inventory, duty-free equipment. Do you understand the significance of that? And for those of you who say, it's no big thing, for us on the family island, it is a big thing. We are here to make life better for our people. And so you can call it Alice in Wonderland. You could call it dreams and schemes. But Martin Luther King had a dream. It starts out as a dream. But when you embrace those attributes of this budget, where that budget is. Well, anyway, when you embrace the attributes of this budget, those dreams, just as Martin Luther King's dream, becomes a reality. They become a reality when your economy is bursting at the seams, when your economy can turn down business, when your young people can now start to own businesses. That is how you get the economy going. We ain't looking for, gone are the days when all you want to talk about is job, job, job. I want our young people to start thinking about business ownership. That you own your business, establish your future. That's what we want. We want a job.
Be your own boss.
Be your own boss. And that's what we're talking about when we say dream. Yeah, we're going to dream and dream big. And one day, that dream will become a reality. And Pine Ridge, I could point to some people who had some dreams. I one day started out as a dream. I started out as a dream. I came from a family of 6. One mother brought up 6 children, had scholarship to come to Nassau and couldn't stay in Nassau because didn't have nowhere to stay. Well, I came for the first year. I came for, oh boy. Oh boy. I heard somebody said something from their seat. I want to correct that person from their seat. You are $30,000 wrong. No more. The point I'm saying, I came from nothing with a dream. And many others will come from nothing with a dream. A dream is where you start. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. Don't knock the dream. And the thing about it, when we get to a place, we can move away from the dream and we can start the scheme, and then we can go and start a clinic. And with the help of others, we could build a clinic in our community. And I wish I had a picture of the Bluff Clinic today. Then you would see a dream become a scheme and now a reality.
That's progress. That's progress.
You see plenty talking. They got plenty of people out here who talk stuff, or plenty of people who are trying to dismiss stuff. But the Bahamas is built of people that are willing to go out there and work. All they need is an opportunity, and that's what this budget does. It's small, you know. Yeah, you start small, but it's a story of the talents. God give you 1, God give you 2, God give you 3. It's how you use it. You know, I used to think when I used to hear certain things that was much. But the question is, what is brought to the table for what persons are talking about? Young people, listen to me. Middle-aged people, listen to me. Elderly people, listen to me. Don't let people tell you what is good for you and what ain't good for you. Check for yourself. See, I heard somebody throwing out a figure because that's what they heard. You hear something, you run with it. Get the facts. And that's why I say, come to my constituency and get the facts. And that's why when people run on yap, my people know me. They like some in there like to say, they people know them. My people know me. They know what I bring to the table. Okay. I like that. I born there. And I went back there. And I could show of the things that I've done there. And so when I speak, I can speak with authority. But even with all of the many blessings that we have, there's still some shortcomings. There's still some things we need. I'll be working on them, like you say, Southern Shores. But we accept that. Even with all our blessings, it's not perfect. But don't tell me ain't nothing in it for me. If ain't nothing in it for you, that's you. But my people know what's in it for them, and they are benefiting from it. And next time I'm in this place, I will talk on how this budget had benefited us going forward. Just like how they refer to the previous budget as X, Y, C, and this thing and the next thing, I can now talk about what the benefits we have there. And you know what has tickled me, Mr. Deputy? Persons like to say, but you only doing what you supposed to do. Mr. Deputy, when they say, it ain't your money, it's the people's money. They like say that, you know, Mr. Deputy.
That's the campaign thing, man. Don't worry.
Or the next thing they like to say, oh, it's election time. But to them, I say this. What about those who had the people's money? And for some, in decades, ain't do nothing with the people's money. What about those, Mr. Deputy? What about those, Mr. Deputy, who had the same people's money that they say we doing what's supposed to do, now saying, there's be some of them same ones who say, Mr. Deputy, but we left it in the pipeline. But you know, some of them couldn't leave it in the pipeline because they ain't lay no pipe.
That's what I'm doing.
Mr. Deputy, you know, my thing is this. I get why sometimes they say what they say. I get it. You know, some take take meaning opposition to be opposite at all times. And so they take it from that perspective. But I believe if something is in the well-being of your country and it being done well, you know, even if you don't want to acknowledge it, don't just say, hey, nothing happening, because then people know something happening and they know you telling an untruth.
They could know something happening when they know that they don't want to.
And so, Mr. Deputy, the people of North Eleuthera, they have needs. We still have stuff that's outstanding. We still need that state-of-the-art airport. And while it's coming, it should have been here. And for whatever reason it hasn't been done, all I'm gonna say, we need to get it done. And we need to get it done in the quickest possible time. We have international carriers that are coming in 4 times a day. Mr. Deputy, there are days when you got Delta on the line, on the ground, American on the ground, Gulfstream on the ground, Aztec on the ground, and a myriad of private jets.
They say he must stop it. That's why they did the 2018 and it's stupid. Don't distract.
See, that's what I tell you all. Don't listen to that talk. If you want to know how things is, come visit me. If you don't want to come, you're welcome. And we'll find somewhere for you to stay if you need a place to stay. Another badly needed item, Mr. Deputy, is Crown land and the distribution of Crown land. I've asked I've asked my Prime Minister in the quickest possible way, please distribute as much Crown land as you possibly can, because the people of North Eleuthera are ready, willing, and able to build, whether business facilities, apartments, homes. They are ready. We ain't gonna sit on no property. We ain't gonna speculate. We ain't gonna let it sit. We gonna build, and we gonna build now. Especially where we could bring everything in duty free. Mr. Deputy, I have Mr. Deputy, I also want to address something that I've addressed before in this House. And I talked to my good friend over there in Garden Hills, and I relentlessly go at him, and I know it's not, I know there are limitations to his power, but I have to say again, there are a group of people that is about to be regularized shortly, but I'm insisting, Mr. Deputy, that this administration do what it has done in the past and assisting those that are most needed. That these contract workers that have been engaged for many, many, many years, please, for God's sake, let's make them P&P. Do you know what it is to be engaged with the government for 10, 12, 15 years, and you can't go to the bank to get a loan? You can't take on any long-term commitment because you're not permanent. Mr. Deputy, that ain't right. These people need to be regularized. And I tell you, Mr. Deputy, there's two people in particular. I can call their name to y'all who you know who I got to call your name to as often and as many times as I can, because I need these people regularized. And not just them, but all of the persons that have been engaged by the government for many, 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 many years and have not been made P&P. It is not fair to them and not fair to their families. Mr. Deputy, and so I take my seat. As I take my seat, I just want to remind you that some, the glass is half full because they don't see the potential. To me, it's half full. And it is half full because this administration is moving in the right direction to help spur growth. It is half full because we are going to do the things to make every other constituency in the Bahamas like mine, where we're bursting at the seams, where we have to turn down reservations or tell you got to leave because somebody else needs to come. Mr. Deputy, we want every family island. And you see it now more than ever. COVID has taught us that if you turn loose these family islands and let them, just give them what they need, they can make it on their own. We ain't gonna need Nassau, you know. Because when in Nassau, when y'all was lining up for food assistance, we was driving to your door and giving it to you. And I want to go on the record to thank programs like Briley Aid that has done a yeoman's job in keeping persons working throughout the pandemic and also providing food for persons during the pandemic, helping homeowners that old people who got homes that are in disrepair, fixing them up for them. They did a marvelous job. And I want to thank Brian, I want to thank the food bank for what they had also done and passing out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of food. You know, my good friend, my good brother, my twin in Central South, you know, he talked about the $200,000 and I get that. That was a lot for a community that's not as blessed as mine. Food bank in Harbor Island, we did almost $1 million. But guess what? Other communities could be the same way. That's what we call, that's the path of the scheme where you're doing a public-private partnership, coming together with other essential organizations in your community or persons and getting it done because we know the government does not have the money. We ain't got the money, we fooling. People believe that we have, that the government can print money. It can't. Don't worry, they see. They see. But this is what we are talking about. Helping others to help themselves. This is what this administration is trying to do. It's not an easy task. Everybody knows of the millions and millions of dollars that the government does not have or has lost in terms of having to help and assist. But when we come together and work together and partner on projects, community-based projects, we can do a lot. And that is how we're going to get ahead. And so if North Eleuthera can do it, so can South Eleuthera, so can Michael, so can Rumkey in San Salvador, or the 5 constituencies in Grand Bahama, the 2 in Abaco, the 2 in Andros. We can help each other. And when we help each other, we'll help all of us. So, Mr. Deputy, North Eleuthera appreciates what we have. When we take the little that was given and we make much. And that is why North Eleuthera supports this bill.
Thank you very much, member for North Eleuthera. As many. Chair recognizes the good member for Garden Hills. Chair now recognizes the good member for Southern Shores.
Mr. Deputy, I move that the business of this House suspends until tomorrow, Thursday, the 10th of June, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Second. Being moved and seconded that this business of this House suspends until the 10th of June, 10 a.m. Of June 2021. As many members are in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. The business of this House is therefore adjourned to the 10th, suspended until Thursday, the 10th of June, 2021 at 10 a.m.